So it's just, okay, great. So we are recording this section. So yes, so welcome you all to ACOPPHE-MRN celebration for the World Indigenous Day. Today, August 9th, I'm Vanessa Góes, MRN's Executive Secretary, and I will be facilitating the event today. So it's a pleasure and honor to share with you this MRN webinar on Indigenous knowledge research, entitled Bridging the Past, Present, and Future Determinants of Health. So we are bringing Indigenous and modern perspectives in research. So I would like to express our gratitude to our speakers today. We will be having amazing speakers from Africa and South America, sharing with us their knowledge and perspectives about this rich universe, which is Indigenous culture. Their wisdom is so relevant to face our anthropogenic challenges. So we are trying to bring this knowledge to our modern perspectives. With no further delay, let's start the celebration. And I will be calling now Nightingale and Nathan, the co-founders and directors of ACOPPHE, which is the acronym for African Community of Planetary Partners for Health and Environment, to speak a little bit about this movement, this passionate people, this group, where MRN was born. MRN stands for Mentoring Research Network, and is one of ACOPPHE's action teams focused on transdisciplinary and collaborative research. So please, Nathan and Nightingale, welcome.
Thank you, Vanessa, and thank you all for joining. We are happy to share just a few words, walk down memory lane about ACOPPHE and how we got started. For some of you, this is your first time to connect with us, and what we are committed to is opening up warm, welcoming, inclusive, interactive, participatory spaces so that we can build a community at the planetary level. As Vanessa has shared, ACOPPHE stands for Africa Community of Planetary Partners for Health and Environment. And with that, we do have a focus on Africa, but it is a very inclusive focus where we recognize how tied Africa is to other continents and really to everyone around the world who is interested in Africa and committed to connecting health and environment. So we are really excited to connect with you today and looking forward to some really great presentations, and most of all hoping that we can build this community, build the trust and relationships with those of us who are together in today's meeting so that we can think about the next steps and the way to spread these positive, hopeful, impactful messages into the real world, taking it out of the virtual space and figuring out what we can do together to make this the norm. So welcome again, and I'll pass it over to Nightingale.
Thank you. I am very glad to be here on this very special day, and I'm very glad to share this space with everyone who's coming from all different places, with very different culture in some ways, but also collectively very similar culture if we dig deeper. Because if we dig deeper, we find ourselves quite likely coming from the same place. And so when we think about it, we are one. I think Vanessa Góes loves to say that we are one, and I agree with her. So I want to just say a little bit. I know Nathan just touched on the beginnings of ACOPPHE, And so I just want to dwell a little bit on our indigeneity. And I wanted to say that it goes deeper and it goes far into the past. It is what our foreparents passed on to us, and it is where the real pool of cultural and indigenous wisdom lies. That is what we all come together today to celebrate. I welcome each one of us at this moment to just take a few seconds. You can keep your eyes open or keep your eyes closed, but just welcome those who came before you that make you possible to be here today, you and me. Just welcome them in, and also welcome those who are coming, who have come after us. They are the children and those who will call us our foreparents. Let's just take a few seconds and welcome them and thank them. And so it is a great moment to be here, and we are very excited to learn from our guest speakers and also learn from each other and share cultural wisdom that and indigenous wisdom that can only be shared willingly and not unwillingly. Thank you for having us.
Well, thank you very much, Nathan and Nightingale, for these lovely words and celebration. Our first guest is the MRN director, Mona Elzerbini. She's a medical doctor, researcher, lecturer, and a mentor based in the Faculty of Medicine of Cairo University in Egypt. She's a specialist in parasitic infectious disease, and she adopts a holistic approach to medicine and life generally. And her passion is to integrate medicine with medical humanities, the arts, and science. Through her mentorship for medical students and early career researchers, she articulates this shared vision towards caring for oneself and others. She's director of Narrative Medicine and Planetary Health undergraduate elective course, member of a few committees, including the Postgraduate Research and Training and the Quality Assurance and Postgraduate Studies, a fellow in the Foundation of Advancement of International Medical Education and Research, the Institute in Philadelphia, United States, and she's also executive member of ACOPPHE. So please welcome Mona.
Thank you very much, Vanessa, for this welcome intro. I will share my presentation now, so just bear with me a few seconds. Assalamu alaikum. Embrace the best, connecting medicine, arts, astronomy, and consciousness to see the bigger picture. The study of man as an integrated unit and of the ecosystems in which he functions is grossly neglected. A very different kind of knowledge is needed to understand the nature of the cohesive forces which maintain man in an integrated state, physically, psychologically, and socially, and enable him to relate successfully to his environment. Part of the indigenous culture is storytelling. All of those which explain how the world came to be the way it is across time and space dimensions. In this talk, we will travel back in time to revisit the history of humanity from a native perspective, in a trial to recover enough cognitive function to correct the mainstream message that our modern world has created. The awe-inspiring colored picture of galaxies taken by James Webb Telescope has shifted the global consciousness to the wonders of the vast universe. Indeed, there is a pattern to the universe and everything in it. However, there are also knowledge systems and traditions that follow specific cosmic cues. People of antiquity adopted a cyclic view of time, rooted in rhythmic cosmological events, which accounted for consistent measurements across disconnected cultures. These patterns were thought to keep an earth-bound temporal orientation in constant check. For example, the Dogon tribe inhabitants of Mali in Africa, an area 2,000 miles from Egypt, described as primitive indigenous people with a characteristic folklore dance performed every 60 years. During these celebrations, the Dogon's knowledge is passed on to future generations, but there is supposedly secret information regarding their knowledge that has not left the tribe. But what kind of secret knowledge? Amazingly, it is an advanced astronomical knowledge on Sirius star system. Not only Sirius A, which is visible by the naked eye, but its accompanying dwarf Sirius B, which was not discovered until the 1950s with an advanced telescope. According to Robert Temple in his book Mystery of Sirius, the Dogon's astonishing astronomical knowledge must have reached them from the ancient Egyptians, and the investigation in this secret should be sought in the history of ancient Egypt. Although it might be tempting to think that the only reason for its great popularity was that it was the brightest star in the sky, there is much more to Sirius. Thousands of years ago in ancient Egypt, a culture that watched the sky carefully suggested that pyramids and other marvels of the ancient world are actually relics of a forgotten and technologically advanced civilization. Pyramids were not just monuments or built in isolation from each other as was thought. Rather, it's part of a major engineering plan based on creedal religious background and geometric and survey considerations with very accurate and precise knowledge of astronomy conditions. Recently, astronomers have also used computers to determine the past positions of many stars. This made it easy for them to confirm the idea that the pyramids aligned with the Orion Belt some 10,000 years ago. It's also strange that the pyramids of Mexico and China follow the Orion Belt as well. Anyone can prove it now quite easily by Google Earth and SkyGlobe applications. The pyramids of Mexico and China dates back to the same period, from 10 to 12,000 years BC. This raises many questions: the relation between ancient civilization, the level of coordination that has taken place between ancient Egyptian, Mexican, and Peruvian civilizations, in addition to the similarity between Egypt and these two South American countries in terms of the pyramids, such as the shape of the building. The similarity goes beyond that to the symbols and meanings behind these edifices. With clarity and logic, the Orion correlation theory in alternative Egyptology claims an intended pre-planned mission by builders of the pyramids. Our indigenous ancestors created unique monuments, calendars, and observatories, energy machines, and the list only grows as more discoveries are carried out. The question is, what did our great ancestors try to show us by their unbelievably coordinated and harmonious societal, planetary, and astronomical connections across time and space? I came to admire the wisdom of ancient knowledge only with great difficulty, but something shifted during my educational journey in history, and the ancient Egyptian literature became a series of interest. I found many affirmations for brilliant discoveries related to all fields of science humanity has ever known. This includes the evidence of the concept of integrating knowledge. For example, ancient Egyptian physicians integrated medicine with many other disciplines such as ethics, law, anthropology, and sociology, addressing the mind, body, and soul in healing practices. Thus, health and illnesses were seen as manifestations of each person's relationship with the universe around them. On the world's Indigenous Peoples Day, we need to remind ourselves and others that each indigenous culture is a branch of a tree, a repository of knowledge, and a source of inspiration and promise for the future. It was not a mere coincidence that the pyramids aligned on Orion's belt in the sky. It's about a very special way of thinking that signifies the sense of meaning, purpose, and connectedness in order to create a coherent view of the whole world for which we owe our ancestors great debt. The time has come to rescue knowledge as it is in the traditional societies, and we must admit that the science today is operating on partial knowledge. As a community of scientists and health advocates, I propose that it's our duty to ensure that the holistic perspectives are plugged more firmly into the equation, bringing attention to the wealth of ancient views of health. Finally, I hope that through this webinar, we can reconnect with the essence of Indigenous knowledge, honor traditions, and stimulate a range of research ideas and inspirations that help us make better sense of the world we live in.
Oh my God. Thank you very much. So beautiful approach. Beautiful. Ooh, today is a special day. So let me call our next speaker, which is Mrs. Rutendo Nigaro. She's an African Indigenous knowledge systems practitioner and transdisciplinary researcher with a passion for integrating art, science, and spirituality towards healing of the collective and restoration of the whole. Rutendo is a co-founder of Ancient Wisdom Africa. She serves on a number of boards, advisory, and convening committees, including the Credo Mutwa Foundation, the South African Wushu Federation, Earthrise Collective, and Amhashkatsi Peace, Eco Village. Sorry for the words. Rutendo is a practitioner of a number of physical disciplines, including Wushu, Kung Fu, Tai Chi, for which she has represented South Africa as an international silver medalist. She holds a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering and a master's in medicine in biomedical engineering, and is pursuing a doctorate in philosophy of education. The quest for harmony, coexistence, and complementarity underpins her endeavors. Please welcome Mrs. Rutendo.
Thank you so much, Vanessa, and thank you so much for Dr. Mona for a beautiful presentation, very much after my heart. Thank you so much for inviting me into this day. It's actually also a special day here in South Africa. We're celebrating Women's Day as well, and so this merges very nicely with this international celebration that we're having today. I'd like to begin by following the proverbial bridge. And in trying to follow this proverbial bridge, a bridge normally allows us to bring into harmony that which is disparate, those great chasms of our lives. And one great chasm is the chasm between modern science and Indigenous science, as Dr. Mona has illustrated. And what is often not known or often not brought into the foresight is how much our modern science is premised upon our Indigenous science, and actually how much our Indigenous science is advanced compared to the little that the modern science has managed to draw from our Indigenous science. And to the right, we see the IFA system, which works on a number of mathematical constructs and a number of bases. It works in base 2, it works in base 4, base 8, and base 16, as opposed to our modern system that is allowing us to communicate today, which is basically a binary system where we're just communicating through zeros and ones. So what happens when we start communicating in all those other bases? I would just request you not to really focus on what I have to say, but maybe just focus on the essence of what I have to say. So we're speaking about bridging the past, present, and future. And I'd like to begin in the future. It is 2122. in order to be able to make this bridge across this chasm of time this time, what is the future we seek to see in 21, 22, 100 years from now? What is it that we will create? What is it that the world will look like in this future? And I'd like to believe that the weaver is such a bridge to the future. And it is a great inspiration to me, as I have indicated before in this platform. And the weaver allows us to learn from nature, or to learn from nature, because it weaves tapestries. So in 21, 22, what will we have woven as a collective, as humanity? And in what ways will we have ensured that what we have woven is solid? In what ways will we ensure that whatever we have woven is able to carry the eggs that are able to crack open into creating new life that is able to sustain the great expanding vessel that is life? What are the tapestries that we will create? And what is the precision with which we will have had to create that tapestry? And the weaver is incredibly meticulous, especially here in South Africa, we're celebrating Women's Day, especially the female weaver, which does not take anything that is not absolutely perfect in order to be able to carry the whole within its nest. So what is the precision that we need? And in this future of 21, 22, what is it that we need to consolidate? And how are we able to consolidate our individual tapestries into a collective tapestry, into a collective city of tapestries, into a collective galaxy of tapestries? And how will that, as the social weaver does, allow us to share what may be limited resources if humanity continues along this collision course that it is on at the moment? And there we see the weaver in the Kalahari Desert, which is able to create a way of sustaining and conserving energy in the limited resources of the desert by ensuring that one nest is created with multiple nests within. What is the nest we need in this future that we're in? And how does this weave strands of sustainability? So we learn through weaving from the weaver, and we weave fractals, the kinds of fractals that Dr. Mona spoke of, that are woven through the universe and that are woven and weaving us into the ways of health. But what is our present? And what is the bridge we need into our current reality? So the time is 2022. And what is the future that our present is creating? And as we know, we are on a collision course to disaster. We are sinking, we are burning, there are floods. The world is in turmoil. We have pandemics, we have wars, and all of this is part of this future that we are creating. And where will this future exist that we are creating? And what is it that will enable it to create? And what will it create if it's fragile, or will it be able to be nourished like the weaver nourishes the egg, that it is able to blossom and it's able to eventually crack and is able to fly into the universe and into the world? And so what are the determinants that determine what we need to look at? So what is the authority that we have at the current time? And if we look at our various authority systems, how do they contribute to our overall health in this future that we seek to create? What is our sense of community in this world? And today is Women's Day here in South Africa, and we know that we suffer from a lot of gender-based violence, but this is not the only violences that we have. The world is awash in violence. So what is the health that is community-based health? What is the health determinant of our economy? And COVID-19 allowed us to go into deep recessions, but these deep recessions just being symbolic of all the recessions and the depressions that we find in all facets of life. What are the socio-political determinants? What do we have to say about this global, the global systems that are struggling to find peace? And in whose hands do we find them? What do we have to say about our genetics and our behavior? What do we have to say about the pathogenic universe and what we can learn from it? What are our education systems? What is our infrastructural systems? And what is it that's happening in the environment? What are the missing links that we need to bridge in order to create this future that we seek to see? Time, we'll be told, is ticking. And whose perspective and whose vision are we following? And so this is where we then bring in the past and we bridge across the river. And the river I'd like to bridge across today is the river which allows many elephants to cross by. And this river is the Zambezi River. Now, the word Zambezi is an adulteration. The true name is Kasamambezi. And the Kasamambezi means only he or she who knows can cross. Meaning only he or she who understands the ways of the river, only he or she who understands the ways of the hippo, the ways of the crocodile, only he or she who understands the torrents and the currents and the torrents, only he or she who understands the mighty waterfall, the mighty curtain of water, the biggest curtain of water in the world that falls through the Zambezi River is able to cross it. And because of this, we find this incredible waterfall, which we call Musiwatunya, the smoke that thunders, also known as Victoria Falls. And this river teaches us a lot. It arises under a miombo tree in Zambia, and it traverses 6 countries before eventually emptying out into the Indian Ocean. This river, as it travels through these 6 countries, meandering and detouring, collects with it a lot of knowledge. This river, as it meanders through these different countries and these different terrains, deposits a lot of knowledge. This river, as it traverses through all these different terrains, eventually falls, as we know, through this incredible curtain of water called Musiwatunya. And only he or she who has the knowledge of the river, the knowledge of the crocodiles, the knowledge of the hippos, the knowledge of the baobabs, the knowledge of the elephants, only he or she who understands this can cross without the bridge. So what is this bridge that we need? And there we see the Zambezi River beginning in Zambia, going through the Congo, going through Angola, going through Botswana, going through Zimbabwe, going through Mozambique, and eventually emptying out into the Indian Ocean through the Mozambican Delta. What is really interesting about this river, though, is that it actually, long ago, arose here in Botswana. And we find a place here which is called Mahadi. And Mahadi is a place in the desert. But this place in its naming, Mahadi, shows, as Dr. Mona was showing us, that our ancient ones understood the ways of paleontology and the ways of astronomy, because they named this because they knew that this place deep in the desert once carried a lot of water, and 2, also carried the feminine principle, because Khadi in Setswana, speaks to the aunt or to the feminine. And so this river, which we know now begins in Zambia, our ancient ancestors knew through indigenous ways that actually this great river that falls through this great curtain of water in Musiwatunya once carried the code of Mahadi, the place of great dryings, but also the place of great tears, but also the place of the great feminine. And its custodians are the Tonga people, those who are custodians of the Nyami being the sacred water serpent, who is the custodian of this river. But the sadness is, in its journey from that miombo tree in Zambia and through the 6 countries until it eventually seeks upon the ocean that refuses no river, it has to go through these walls that were built. And here is the wall that was built in Kariba Dam. And according to the Tonga people, the great ones, this custodian, it carried with it the masculine and the feminine. So we have the Nyami here, which is the masculine aspect of the river. And on the other side of the river was the feminine, which is the wife of the masculine. Now, when the colonialists came to build this dam in order to create hydropower, they did not focus on the indigenous people and did not go to those who understood the ways of the river, the Kasamambezi, who understood the crocodiles and understood the spirits of the river, in order to know that before you block the masculine from the feminine, before you block the river serpent from its route towards the river, you have to do great rituals, you have to appease it, you have to ask for its permission. And as a result of this great serpent in the building of this river found that it created lots of earthquakes, which are not endogenous to that area. And eventually, only when about 80 people had died, did they go back to the indigenous people who had been evicted from this great river, and then ask them how to conduct the correct rituals. And only after the rituals were done for this river was there able to be construction with minimal disturbance. But even to this day, our ancient ones tell us that the masculine has been separated from the feminine. And therefore, our knowledge, which is supposed to flow deeply and fluidly from that Miombo tree all the way to the ocean, has therefore been stifled and has been blocked. So this is what we need to unpack when we start to unpack the ways of our indigenous ways. And in that, the Tonga people do this through the fractal that they weave. And these are great Tonga baskets, which are learned from nature, like the great weaver that we know. And so what this river tells us is that in rooting in our indigenous knowledge systems, we need to root in our communities, which is situated in the broader context where all life forms are a result of interaction between social and spiritual relations, such as the Nyami. We need to understand our tacit knowledges. We need to understand our experiential knowledges. We need to understand our environment, and we need to be constantly dynamic and constantly adapting. And this is what our rivers continue to show us, whether it is the Niger, which tells us about the obscure course of indigenous knowledge systems, the Congo, which tells us all that is to be born of the wounding, the Nile, which teaches us about the principle of Ma'at, the Zambezi, which teaches about the principle of Ubuntu, or the Orange, the Sinku, which teaches us about the way of our ancient ancestors, the Bushmen. And this is how we weave the tapestries. This is how we weave the tapestries that take us away from the marginalizations, the invalidizations, and the illegitimizations of our indigenous knowledge systems. This is how we weave the tapestries that bring forth cognitive justice, the rights of different traditions of knowledge to coexist without duress. And in this way, we therefore bridge facets of our indigenous knowledge. So I'd like to start bridging our indigenous knowledges. And as Dr. Mona has already done, it has to start with our cosmologies. We have to understand the structure of the universe. We have to understand how it feeds into our causality and into our interdependence, and how it feeds into our nature of reality, and our role, our tiny role as humanity in this great expanse. We have to understand through understanding the stars, through understanding Sirius, and through understanding Orion, and through understanding all those ways, the lens with which to construe, to interpret, and to understand our world. And in that way, we're able to see cosmology as a worldview, that which informs our decisions, that which informs our social landscapes, that which allows us to know ourselves. And as the recent NASA has shown us, as Dr. Mona was saying, actually we are stardust. So when we know what is happening in the universe, because we're made of the same stuff, we know who we are. And in this way, we start to understand the underlying tenets of culture, the totality of that which is our socially transmitted behaviors, patterns, arts, beliefs, institution, norms, values, and other products of human thought. But we know that there is a chasm, and this is why we need a bridge, because this bridge may be a narrow tunnel, and in this narrow tunnel, there may be a light coming through, and this light may be a train, and we may have nowhere to escape. And this is the light that we may see when we are propagated by the dominant scientific worldview, which is essentially mechanistic, essentially reductionist, essentially objectivity. It is dualistic, monistic, and seeks dichotomy and binary opposition. When we only see things in terms of silos, when we separate as opposed to congregate, when we analyze as opposed to when we only analyze as opposed to synthesizing. And this is where Neter comes in, Neter being nature, or Neter being all that is. And in this way, the bridge we may seek to show is a bridge that shows us, that takes us across the river into the great mountains across. And this we understand from our indigenous knowledge systems that Neter tells us that there are multiple realms of being, but essentially the subjective realm, which is the void from which all things come, and the objective realm that brings us consciousness and will and energy and matter. And that when we synthesize these two realms, and when we synthesize the being that pervades life in these realms, then we have Neter, then we have nature, then we have natura, then we are neutral, and then we have life. And when we have life, we have Ntu, that causative dynamic life force that is responsible for all of creation on earth. And this Ntu is the subjective matter of the subjective realm of Neter, which tells us, as many of our Bantu traditions tell us, that a person is a person through other persons. But it is not just a person that is a person through other persons. That bridge of Ubuntu tells us that I am because all that is. I am because we are. And this allows us to bridge stories, to bridge the stories that shows us that we are Muntu. We are those reasoned beings that are of Ubuntu. And when we are those reasoned beings that are of Ubuntu, then we are Bantu. So we who are called the Bantu people by genetics are actually just Bantu. We are all Bantu, because we are all the human beings, the reasoned beings that are born from Ubuntu. But we reasoned beings that are born from Ubuntu also interact with all the unreasoned beings, all those that do not necessarily have intellectual thought, but which are in harmony, like Kasamambezi, in harmony with the ways of Ubuntu and in harmony with the ways of Neter. And these are Kintu, according to our Bantu, Proto-Bantu languages. But also in knowing Hantu, time and space, we have to acknowledge the cycles of Neter and the cycles of Ubuntu in order to understand. But we also need to understand that which is ephemeral, that which is invisible, that which is intangible, that which manifests from the void in that subjective realm. And when we understand Kuntu and Hantu, which is time and space, when we understand Kintu, which are unreasoned beings, when we understand Muntu, which is us reasoned beings, then we're living Ubuntu. And then we're living beyond the anthropocentric view of Ubuntu. So Ubuntu tells us about the animate. Ubuntu tells us about the inanimate. Ubuntu tells us all about the cycles of being that are inherently cycles within ourselves. And Ubuntu tells us about that which is intangible. And when we're able to merge all these ways of being, then we're agents of Neter, then we are nature. And so we then go from Ubuntu to Ubuntu. We therefore become this force in which being and beings coalesce. We become the basic essence that unifies the universe. We become that spiritual force that is immanent. We become transcendent. We become interrelated, interconnected, interdependent with all that is. And therefore, we can bring forth harmony, which we know from the Nile Valley where Dr. Mona comes from as Ma'at. Ubuntu is actually Ma'at. And so when we then bring the past, present, and future together, we can travel a little around the continent and come to the principle of Sankofa. And this Sankofa allows us to be the bridge between the past, the present, and the future. Because Sankofa tells us that in order to create a greater future, we need to go into the past. And when we go into the past, we feed that past into the present. And when we feed into the present, we can therefore create a future that is drawn on this interconnectedness, interrelatedness, and interdependence between time. This is Hantu that we see from our Hantu cosmology. So this is beyond the anthropocentric Sankofa. It's actually beyond just that which is located in the time of humanity. It says, go back and fetch it. Look into the past that we may understand how we became what we are so that we can move towards a better future. We need to learn from the past. But when we look deeper into Sankofa is not just a time-bound principle. Sankofa is not just about looking into the past. Sankofa is about feedback. It is about those feedback loops we find throughout all facets of Neter and through which Ndu passes through. And so Sankofa we find in all facets. We find it in production, in the market. We find Sankofa in psychology. We find Sankofa in the body, in sugar regulation, in homeostasis, in temperature control. We find Sankofa in engineering. We find Sankofa in the environment. We find Sankofa in all aspects of life. And what we're talking about when we're bridging the past, present, and future is a universal feedback system. And so Sankofa we may see as feedback, as systems theory, and we see Sankofa both as positive feedback system and a negative feedback system. And what we find is that the other symbol of Sankofa as a positive and feedback system is actually a heart. So Sankofa is all about love. And when we look at Ubuntu, we're speaking about love. When we're talking about Ma'at, we're speaking about love. So ultimately, he or she who understands the ways of the river, Kasamambezi, is the one who understands all of it through love. It is all connected. And so this is where we may then find a convergence between indigenous ways of knowing and our ancient, our modern ways. And we see that when we start to unpack Hantu, we understand the theory of relativity. When we start to unpack the ways of Ndu, we understand, for instance, in quantum physics, particle wave duality. Ubuntu tells us about the indivisibility of nature. It tells us about the participatory universe. We can understand chaos theory, binary code, probability, uncertainty principles, quantum theory, all of these through IKS. All of these quantum ways of knowing relate to our indigenous ancient ways of knowing. And so then we see that in order to merge with our ways, we need to merge science and spirituality. We need to understand our cosmological, biological, and social networks. We need to delve in diversity versus monoculture. We need to see ourselves as a part of, as opposed to apart from nature. And in this, we're able to create sustainable ecosystems within, and therefore sustainable communities without, and we're able to merge in interdependence, interrelatedness, and interconnectedness. And when we do this, perhaps parallel worlds can merge, and perhaps we can move in the ways of our oldest ancestors, the ways of the Bushmen, the ways of our first ancestors. Perhaps we can activate Ndu through the Ngum of the land. They speak of Ngum, that is the life force. And when we activate Ngum, then we activate the ways of tracking nature. We activate the ways of transcending nature through trance. We activate the ways of dancing nature. And in this way, we become custodians as opposed to control. We coexist as opposed to dominate. We engage in ecological sustainability and become those who restore and regenerate. And this is how our indigenous knowledge systems can meet the challenges of our times. And in this way, when we approach our health, how do we ensure that we are not burning that which is with us? By engaging the rivers, the feminine. How do we engage that which is transdisciplinary? How do we engage in transdisciplinarity? How do we engage in transversality? And how do we then transcend with the great dance of life? When we do this, we have a collective weaving. And in this, we may weave through our activity, not just through our physical, tangible things, but through our activities in repetitive motions, in the fractals that are created, simulating and in synchronicity with the great fractals that are created in the universe. And when we do this, then the cycles of Ubuntu and Sankofa can bring us from the periphery to the core, can give us into a deep side, can show us that all is connected, all is relational. We're part of the continuum, and we have systems of sustainability and health beyond the Anthropocene. I belong to the Worldwide Indigenous Peoples Charter, and the Indigenous way, according to this charter, is to recognize the interconnectedness, interrelatedness, and interdependence of all facets of creation. When nature speaks, the Indigenous way is to listen. The indigenous way is to recognize that Mother Earth is not isolated from the whole, but Mother Earth both serves and is served by the whole. The indigenous way is to uphold the sacredness of nature and to be both restorative and regenerative where desecration may have occurred. And in serving Mother Earth, the indigenous way is to recognize our place in the universe and in the cosmos. And when we do this, then I am because we are. We can go into the past from Sankofa to Ubuntu to Ma'at. We can then rise as the phoenix of Benu. And in this, we realize that a dream is not a dream until it is shared by the entire community. And in that, we're able to create our future.
Oh, I'm not sure if I will have heart until the end. Thank you very much. Oh, very touching. I'm so grateful to be sharing this moment with you. Let's keep on this lovely move. I will invite now our next speaker, which is Dr. Vivian Camacho. She's from Bolivia. So, you know, you were saying like we are one, right? So she's bringing the South America perspective, and we will probably see that she's gonna say the same thing. She is Dr. Vivian Camacho is the director of Ancestral Traditional Medicine within the Vice Ministry of Ancestral Traditional Medicine in the Ministry of Health of the plurinational state of Bolivia, a high-level commissioner, Alma at 40 years, of the region of the Americas for the Pan American Health Organization, People's Health Coordinator, Bolivia, former representative for the Andean region in the Latin America coordination within the World Movement for People's Health. She's a Quechua midwife, promoter of respectful childbirth and ancestral midwifery. She's a holder of a master in agroecology and culture and indigenous development in Latin America, promoter of popular health with peasant communities, Indigenous communicator member at the Abya Wala Network of Indigenous Communication, medical surgeon, specialist in interculturality, and health promoter of ancestral knowledge of Indigenous people. Very welcome, Vivian.
Dear Vanessa, I'm just so moved and happy to be here with you all. Sumas puncha kacho tukukunapa, hatuna paigo tukuganapa, noga suti Camacho, noga kani quechua kai Bolivia, foyasu manta tiakuni hatuna paigo. That is my original language. I am Quechua from the plurinational state of Bolivia, and I feel so overwhelmed and so moved. That's why I want to offer this fire for you, for all of us. So, with this sacred fire, I just want to thank, first of all, to our ancestors, to everyone that has made this beautiful wedding possible. To all of us, wherever we are in this world, we are all united because sacred spirit, sacred fire, our sacred ancestral line has brought us to life. And it's because our ancestral wisdom that we are alive. And from here, from Bolivia, we are indigenous majority. We are indigenous wisdom alive, walking here on earth as you are, wherever you are. So let me salute you. Let me introduce myself. I belong to the Quechua nation of the plurinational state of Bolivia, which its original name is Colla Suyu. Colla means herb or medicine. Suyu means people. We are the healer people. We are the people that heals with different elements. We heal mind, spirit, body. We heal earth. We heal animals because all of them are our family. Because we belong together. We cannot exist separated. So I wanted to share this fire with you before I start because I was so moved by the words of my sisters, because we are sisters. And today is, as Rutendos mentioned, Africans Women Day. So we are all together, my sisters. And today here it is Indigenous Peoples Day here in Latin America as well, and in some places in the world. So I hope we are all together in this, remembering that we are millennial cultures, remembering that our roots are deeper than we have ever thought of, remembering that our wisdom is alive millennia ago, not only centuries of resistance, which we are resisting, but our wisdom is alive millennia ago. So we need to remember this. So thank you to everyone. May this beautiful fire connect us always, whenever we need to. Light a candle, light a fire, light a sacred ceremony. We will be there, all united. Thank you so much. Thank you. So I will start now. I have a presentation to share. I hope I can make it possible here. Okay. Yeah, can you see this? Good. Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you so much. I was just so happy hearing you, because it's the same spirit that moves us. I was saying, oh my goodness, it's the first time I hear myself in another women's voices. And I feel so happy about it. Thank you so much. So I prepared this beautiful presentation for you. This is an altar which is made of healing herbs, which is made of flowers, and also Father Sun, Mother Moon. We always make these ceremonies for Mother Earth, especially here this August 1st. It was the August 1st, and during whole August, we give thanks to Mother Earth. And before I start, I will also present, this is the, if you can see me, this is the law of ancestral medicine, legal in Bolivia. We are the only country here in the Americas that has recognized it from the plurinational state of Bolivia, our law. So here we have recognized it, midwives, ancestral healers, spiritual guides, and also people that heal with plants, with ceremonies. And also we have presented, this is an official document, which is the Ancestral Medicine Guide for COVID-19, because we know we have this approach as well, legal in Bolivia. So I wanted to present those documents before I start as well. Why? I want to, now I want to let you know why. Because these ceremonies are alive in our territory. We are indigenous majority. And we know that health is a human right, not a business. We know that it has to do with our human right. It's so insane how health has become a human, has become a terrible merchandise during COVID-19 pandemic. We have seen that corporations have become millionaires, and they don't care about our people. They don't care about global south, which we are. So we need to unite together, struggling for the right to health. But also one condition that we have been denouncing is healthy food is human right. Which health are we going to have if we don't have food, if we don't have water? Which health? For whom? That's why we are struggling for the right to health, right to our land, right to water. That's why the governments should guarantee this right. And we talk about social determination on health, which means dignity and social justice for our people. We need to address, of course, I'm with you talking about cognitive justice, but especially with social justice. If we don't have social justice, how are we going to address all of these topics? With social justice, we need to address dignity, equity. We need to address health as human right, education as human right. We need to address the respect for our indigenous identities as human right. Our comrade, Dr. Ernesto Guevara, he said, the first illness we must eradicate is social injustice. That's why we need to go on all together, because we know centuries ago our land has been taken, genocide, colonization, and they wanted also to eradicate us, to extirpación de idolatrías. They call it extirpación de idolatrías. They wanted to take away all of our ancient indigenous wisdom. And they said we were sorceries, it was witchcraft, which is only prejudice, colonial prejudice. And we need to address this as it is, because until now, even today, corporations are taking our lands, are taking our water, are taking our natural resources, which are not resources, which are territory, which are family. So we need to address this. And also think about which kind of health are you thinking of the ones of their corporations. They are taking our knowledge, they are taking our wisdom, and they are privatizing. They take, toman el conocimiento, they take it, they make it private, and they sell it to the market. So that's why we need to address this. Our ancient wisdom is for our people, is for our world, not for the corporations, not for the market. And that macro-cultural dominance of this Western culture, we need to address this and say, you are not the only culture. It was imposed with genocide. It was imposed with cruelty inside our territories. So we need to gain back again our strength, our beautiful, our wisdom to say we are different, and we are many, many cultures, millions of human beings with different cultures around the world that have different approaches to life. So inside Bolivia, we have these beautiful constructions alive. This is the build made of a huge piece of rock, which is the door of the sun, and the monolitos, the one piece made statues. They are amazing and beautiful. Until today, they are being studied because those ancient codes are part of more than 10,000 years ago. So we need to remember that we come from it. We come from beautiful, very beautiful and ancient wisdom alive even today. And I have presented you this little drawing down is the land. We call it Pacha, which is not only land, but it's also time and space. It is together, time, space, together. Those together makes us exist. And we have the earth above our heads, Hanapacha, this earth, Taipacha, and the earth below our feet, Ukupacha. All of these has its different strengths, its different spirits and constitutions. And though that strength from up and from below give us a strength to exist in this plane, in this space, in this time space now. And also the Coricancha. This is a beautiful lamina. This is a beautiful drawing. It was a golden solid drawing made of gold, a plaque in Cusco. Cusco was the center of our Tawantil, and it has the sun, has the plants, animals, men, women, and it has different elements that remember that all of them, even natural phenomena, rainbows, the rain, the clouds, everything is part of our Ayu. Ayu means family. Ayu is not only human family. Ayu is everything that has that is with you inside your territory. Everything that gives you life and strength to walk this earth is your family. So mountains, your family, your family. We have also these squared cross, which means we have the bridge between visible and invisible worlds, because we know that invisible world is living with us now. They are also, that's why we honor our ancestors deeply, because it's because they have dreamed about us. Before we were born, they dreamed that we were going to come, we were going to be born, and we deserve our rights, our dignity, our beauty, our wisdom. That's why we honor them, because they left this world with so much tears, so much blood, so much sadness, because they thought Maybe I'm crying now, but my children, my child, my grandchild, they will see the rainbow coming. They will see the new beginning of the new time. And this is now, we call it Pachacuti. Everything that was down the earth, everything that was hidden, now it's awakening. And whatever was hidden under the earth, we call Mother Earth, Pachamama, she was taking care of it so we can be reborn again as seeds for this next time, for these next generations. And this is a beautiful photograph of Callahuayas. They are our ancient healers. They are from Tawantinsuyo times. Even today, they are alive as healer community. So we need to remember that Sumaj Kausai, this paradigm that it's written in our constitution, Bolivia constitution recognizes Sumaj Kausai as living well, but it's a short translation. It's not only living well, it's living in the most beautiful way possible. Sumaj is beautiful, very beautiful. And what makes our heart beautiful? What makes our hearts smile? It is when we share food, when we share our roof, when we share land, because we need to be sharing all the time. We need to be conviviendo. We need to be sharing the space, sharing the time, because we are all one family. Our heart suffers a lot when we see people hungry, with no roof, homeless, when we see our children being killed, like always in solidarity with Palestine. We in Africa, all of them are my family, are our family. So even though I have never seen you, my heart feels, because I do know that my Mother Earth, Pachamama, she feels for you, she feels for us. We need to remember this. Even we are in separate continents, we feel, because it's this true connection to Mother Earth. She makes us feel that feeling, even though sometimes we cry a lot, even though we suffer a lot, because injustice makes us suffer. We need to gain strength, and we gain strength from our ancestral wisdom. We gain strength because our indigenous wisdom is not only folkloric, not for tourists, not for business, is because it is our strength. The deepest strength of our hearts are our ancestral traditions. We heal with herbs, we heal with ceremonies, we heal with offerings to Mother Earth. And here I have this sacred coca leaf, Mother coca leaf. She's an ancient spirit. Even though she is a coca leaf, she's a leaf, a plant. She is the carrier of the message. So I have offered some coca leaves for our offering now. And we need to remember that we have this sacredness alive in our territory now. And we have resisted. That's why when Vanessa asked what title are you using, I said, is our ancestral traditional medicine as cultural resistance and integrative approach for taking care of life. So we are taking care of life integrally, because our ancestral traditions, they bring us ceremony, then bring us equilibrium. And this is beautiful Pachamama, a statue from Tiwanaku more than 10,000 years ago, which is this earth, the earth above and the earth below. And we need to remember, we need to make things with good manner, with our hands, in good way, but also feel in a good way from our heart, and also food in good way from our minds. So our minds, our heart are always in this tune, in tune for making good things in this world. So we need to find this equilibrium. That's Sumaj Kausai. And we need to remember that Earth is not ours. We belong to her. She is our mother. She gives us shelter, food, medicine. She gives us brothers and sisters to share this time space. So we need to remember and continue advancing in this dialogue between academical medicine and ancestral medicine. And also remember that every culture has its ways to resolve this context of magic. It's not only that magic with prejudice that said some people. It is the living ties, the living links that we have with Mother Earth. So we need to ask ourselves, to whom do we want to look like? Aren't we showing that we are willing and we are capable to live in another way. We have different ways for dressing, for walking, for eating, for healing. We are different, and that difference makes us beautiful and strong. Monoculturality wants to sell us one culture because they want us to buy the same, eat the same, dress the same, and consume the same, but we have different, beautiful differences, our textiles, our music, our food, our medicine. That's why we need to address this, saying that difference, our strength. So we need to go on with despatriarcalization. Depatriarchalization means gaining again strength for the feminine force in the world. We are women. We need to remember that many goddesses before this Christianity time, before this colonial time, were honored all over the world. And here for us is Mother Earth. And Mother Earth, inside you, our life is born, it grows and goes back to you. Inside you, our life is turned on and turned off. We are your light, we are your body, we are your spirit. Our deep gratitude for life and for health of everyone. Our ancient people always prayed for everyone. So we need to talk about decolonization of health, decolonization of knowledge, taking back the love and respect for our ancestral roots, and also respecting our campesino, our farmer people over the world. Is because people that work the land, it's because of them we have food. It's because they are still in relationship with the sacred Mother Earth and all the elements. It's because of them that we have food, because corporations, they just want to make business. They don't want any they want to give solutions for the hunger because they only want to solution their business. That's why campesino people, they practice solidarity, integrity, they practice reciprocity because they know even most of our campesino communities, farmer communities are very poor. We always share. We always share because it's a brother, a sister that needs you. We need to remember this. And we have the law for ancestral medicine in Bolivia. We have different advances. Even though last 2 years ago we suffered a racist coup against our government, we resisted. They burned our Ripara because they don't want diversity. They want to become again the time of slavery. But we are free, and we need to remember that we deserve to exist. And also we have different approaches. We need to respect. Even you went to the university, that wisdom is good for some context. But even though you went to the university, you need to respect to another wise men or women that have another knowledge. From the time our ancient wise elders, they are born, they learn all the life, or during the whole life they are learning. So it's not only gaining a little cartoon, it's about learning from the time you are born until the day you leave this earth. And also we have advanced in different situations here. Pan American Health Organizations, even UN, they consider indigenous people, but we need to address communities. And also Alma Ata Declaration in Health, it has ancestral medicine as part of its declaration. So I am a high-level former commissioner of this Alma Ata 40 years, and we have promoted inside its interculturality and health, which has to do with respect to our ancestrality and our spirituality, which is part of our cultural identity. So we need to remember this. And even during COVID, we made some documents. And this beautiful case, it's about Comando Matico. They are from the Amazonia a frontier between Peru and Ecuador. And they made beautiful work because they are so far away. You have to fly from a plane to get to some hospital because it's far. But what they did is take the ancestral wisdom. They organized it, and house by house they went, healing with herbs, with different frictions, with different massaging, but also with sacred healing chants. Because the voice, the prayer, because the power of our voice is part of our ceremonies. So with those sacred healing chants, with those sacred healing sounds, they made the heart of the people want to live again. Imagine how strong, how powerful, how beautiful is our ancestral medicine. That's why we need to preserve this from people, for the people, not for the business of the market. I am a midwife, ancestral midwife of my community, and we are helping, we are giving life again here. As a midwife, my commitment, my main commitment is that we recover this sacred birth space. We have ancestral traditions, beautiful ones that take care of mother, take care of the child. So we need to remember that this is a sacred ceremony, and our first midwife is Mother Earth Pachamama. And different traditions, different people, they have the spirits that take care of this beautiful moment too. So our Mother Earth is the most beautiful healer. That's why I put these beautiful drawings with you. It has to do with community life, agroecology. We need to address ecology from communities, for communities, not for the agribusiness. We need to remember that we are the change we want to see in the world. As Mahatma Gandhi said, we are the ones. We don't have to wait permission for anyone, because the 1% of the richest in the world, they have the riches of the 99, which are all of us. They don't care about us. That's why we need to organize and continue promoting this beautiful textile, saying that we will preserve this beautiful earth. We don't want to go colonize Mars. We want to preserve this beautiful earth for the next generations, and we can do it because she gives us shelter, food, medicine. She gives plenty for anyone, but she doesn't give for the greedy ones. That's why Mahatma Gandhi said, the earth is enough for us, but it won't be enough for the greedy ones. That's why we need to promote dignity in life. We need to promote social justice. It's the time for flowering. Our grandmothers, grandfathers, they said, we are the beautiful flowers. They have dreamed us. That's why I'm so happy to be sharing this with you now. That's why my recommendations are continue South. Global South must remain together so we can face philanthrocapitalism. They send their corporations, they give little money, this little money there, just because to calm their consciousness, and they are polluting, poisoning air, food, water. So we are the ones suffering this. So that's enough. And we need to face this with sovereignty, with autogestion, self-organization. And we need to promote research in science and health and interculturality. We need to go on again with this complementarity. I mean, modern science, academic science has some answers, but it doesn't have all the answers. That's why it has to be humble and talk and learn with indigenous wisdom in the world. So we need to promote, especially organizing, popular power, popular health. I mean, communities must be very strengthened, must be very affirmed, because from communities, being community, we will have the chance to change things. Otherwise, separated with individualistic view, with this absurd thing that made us, Western culture made you think that you must be the richest, the most beautiful, the only one. That absurd idea is colonized idea. It's absurd individualista. That individualistic absurd is just colonization, because we belong together. We know, our hearts know. Even they try to control our minds, but they couldn't, because the beautiful weaving patterns that Rutendo was showing us Remember us that there is a beautiful wisdom beyond what we can think of, imagine, even right now. And this is that makes the stars burn, makes the little seeds sprout, make the children be born on this earth. And it's beyond any control because it's life itself. She's beautiful, generous, loving. That's why we need to remember this. I am part of this beautiful network, virtual library in the Americas. I'm part of the editorial committee. So if you are willing to send out your documents and we could translate and share, because we are promoting integrative approach, holistic approach to health, respect to our ancestral traditions. And also I'm part of People's Health Movement, and I was so honored to be in South Africa in 2012. And I was so happy to meet healers over there because I felt all of them my family. So I'm so moved because I feel I'm family. And this beautiful altar is made of flowers and healing plants and healing herbs. Remember that everything that you see now, if you see now, your table, the computer, everything around you, your clothing, everything has come from her womb. She is our beautiful, beloved Mother Earth. And as a mother, she wants to feed us all, take care of us all, make her children happy and smiling. That's why we need to be cooperating and collaborating. We came here to smile. We came here to flower this earth. So, a ver. I want to leave you with this beautiful flower to remember that each of us has come to make this world beautiful. No matter what you think about, what color, what language, wherever you are, Sumah Kausai is the calling for beauty. And beauty comes from the tender care, from the simple care, from giving your hand to the one that is in need, from organizing, from social justice and dignity. Beauty comes when we take care of each other and we remember that we are brothers and sisters beyond our color, beyond our language. So I'm so happy to be here with you. And I'm crying of happiness and I'm crying of gratitude because my grandfathers, I know they are hearing me, and I know they are hearing you too. They dreamed about this moment that we were going to be united again, and we need to continue. It's not going to be easy, but we will dream about the answers. We will build the answers. We will organize and make it happen. The next generation deserves a beautiful world with healthy air, healthy food, healthy water. So we are going, we are alive. As long as we are alive, it is possible. Thank you so much. Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you, all of you. And know that you have your sister here. Even though I am national director inside health ministry, I come from community and I come from humble people and I come from my indigenous community. And I always remember that I'm just a simple human being walking this beautiful earth, and know that I'm your sister. Thank you so much.
Oh, I'm telling you, I'm not sure if I will have heart to go until the end. Thank you very much, Vivian. I'm so glad to be able to build this bridge because we are so alike, this continents. I feel the same as you. We have the same roots, kind of the same problems, and the best. We have the strength and the solutions through our ancestors and our culture to change this world. So thank you very much for being here. Gracias. So let's go to the last part of our presentation, which will be like a dialogue between this gentlemen will be Tajuddin Yusuf, Yola Oladunjoy, and Habiola Aladipo. Yusuf, he's MRN executive manager. He have a bachelor degree in microbiology at the Faculty of Life Science in University of Ilorin in Nigeria. He's member of the American Society for Microbiology and International Association for Public Health Logistician. As a young researcher, he's involved in science advocacy and communications, enlightening people of the importance of holistic views like One Health and planetary health. And he have published many papers in the whole of One Health and planetary health approaches. Yola, I mean, they are all microbiologists. Oh, I need a paper here. Excuse me. So Yola, he's also a microbiologist, graduated in with a first-class honors in the University of Ilorin, Nigeria. Also an early career scientist with extensive experience in environmental microbiology, with interest in infectious disease, antimicrobial resistance, One Health and planetary health. He have also co-authored several publications in the field. And Habibola Oladipo is also an environmental microbiologist, graduated in with first-class honors at the University of Ilorin, Nigeria, where he's currently pursuing a bachelor degree in pharmacy. He's an entrepreneur who focuses on production of processed food products using organic raw material. He's One Health Research Coordinator at Hulo Foundation, member of ACOPPHE community and the American Society for Microbiology, and a young ambassador of science to Nigeria. So I'll introduce you all, welcome you all. I'm sorry for kind of, the introduction was a bit emotional after all these talks. So feel free to add anything that I didn't mention. Welcome you all.
Okay, thank you so much for that introduction, Vanessa. So, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone from any part of the world that you may be hearing me from. So just like Vanessa has introduced earlier, I am Tajuddin Yusuf, and I am Executive Director of Research at ACOPPHE-MRN. So what did I do as Executive Manager and Director of Research? My role is to supervise and spearhead research, which is happening at the MRN company.
Yusuf?
Hello.
Okay, good. The sound was a bit far. Now it's better again.
Okay, thank you. So in this present era of Anthropocene, we noticed that we are facing a lot of challenges in this era, ranging from climate change, infectious diseases, antimicrobial resistance, mental health, and lots of challenges we are facing with in this Anthropocene. So when we trace back the origin of these challenges that we are facing, we will realize that it is being caused as a result of anthropogenic activities. Our activities are driving all these challenges. So we realize that, okay, fine, if we want to address these challenges, we need to come together as one and address these challenges holistically, especially involving the local communities and indigenous people. For instance, we recognize that when we try to fight the issue of antimicrobial resistance, we notice that there is now a shift of focus from the modern medicine to traditional medicine, because we realize that most of the drugs being manufactured are no longer responding to all these infectious diseases anymore. So adopting the traditional knowledge of medicinal plants, through the indigenous knowledge, we realize that we'll be able to tackle this effectively. However, the indigenous people are usually exploited, let me put it that way. This is because they are not usually appreciated, and at the same time, they are not even involved in research that involve community-based research, because their knowledge are being exploited from them. So we decided to find, if we want to address this, we need the participation of indigenous people. We need to involve them in research. So this is what we are doing at this is what we are doing at MRN. And over the years, we've been advocating for this since the beginning of the MRN, but we didn't stay only at raising advocacy. We also go forward by publishing scientific papers to show that, yes, there's a need for inclusion of local communities and indigenous people in tackling the environmental and public health crisis we are faced with in the Anthropocene era. So most of the research that we've conducted so far, I think Mr. Yola Oladunjoye and Mr. Adebolai Oladipo will be taking us through some of our research. So thank you. Mr. Yola Oladunjoye, can you please share your findings with us? Are you there? Okay, Mr. Adebolai Oladipo, are you there?
Okay, greetings to everyone. Thank you, Mr.
I hear you.
Yeah, hello. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, greetings to everyone. Thank you, Mr. Yusuf. Thank you, Vanessa. Yusuf have said quite a lot on what we do at MRN, Mentorship Research Network, ACOPPHE, and I will be sharing my insights on two key things, or two prominent aspects of research that is attributed to African community. The first is investing in community-based research for infectious disease control. I'll be talking more, elaborate on this. It is widely recognized in academic literature that the initial identification of emerging infectious disease outbreaks usually occur at the community level. And despite this, there are fewer published data describing the risk of disease emerging in this local community. So there's a need to invest in community-based research for infectious disease control, especially in Global South, which includes Africa, specifically Central Africa and West Africa, where majority of these infectious diseases emanate from. However, community-based research is very low in Africa, and this is mostly associated with poor research funding or insufficient financial resources for local scientists and public health researchers in this region. And this tends to give opportunity to researchers from the global north that are properly funded to come down to African region and other global south and conduct research work. And most of the times, when they conduct this research work, they tend not to even involve local scientists. And in several cases, this research do not even have any beneficial any benefits to the local community, a phenomenon which we term helicopter research. Therefore, it is essential for the African community to invest in community-based research. When we invest in community-based research, it will help us to understand the knowledge, attitude, and perception of local community on the ecological factor, as well as the sociological factors that tends to drive these infectious diseases. Not only that, it will also enable us to identify potential infectious disease hotspots. Thereby, it will give us room for adequate surveillance measures and early prevention of this disease outbreak before they escalate into epidemic and pandemic. And also, if we invest in community-based research, it will reveal the potential risk behavior and practices of these local communities that are contributing to this disease outbreak. And as such, local scientists and public health researchers in that region can have a better understanding of these threats of infectious diseases, thereby providing a sustainable measures. I would like to say this, that it is very important, it is prominent that African leaders, governments, and the concerned party invest hugely in community-based research. And as I've highlighted, that it has a lot of benefits, and it will definitely mitigate the effect of the risk of future pandemics. Another aspect that we'll be talking on is the strengthening of the community healthcare system in precarious ecosystem and infectious disease hotspots. It is well known that the emergence of epidemics and pandemics of infectious diseases has continued to threaten livelihoods and lives of people, even both in developing and developed countries. And this is mostly due to several factors, such as the rising or increased human population density, the changes in the interaction between human and wild animals, wildlife trafficking, animal husbandry, and many more. And it is prominent, it is important that these factors will continue to intensify. And when they intensify, they will intensify due to changes in due to disruption in global warming and ecological changes. And this will increase the risk of future disease emergence. Therefore, it is necessary to strengthen community ecosystem in these hotspots, in this hotspot zone. And this hotspot zone includes Africa, specifically West Africa and Central Africa, the global, the global South in general, Africa, West Africa and Central Africa, the Southern East Asia and the South Asia. These regions are presumed to be the hotspot zone for infectious diseases. Therefore, we need to put in measures to strengthen the community healthcare system in order to be able to contain infectious diseases when we have them, or the outbreaks of infectious disease. According to the World Health Organization, it is said that the building health blocks for community should be equipped with essential service delivery, quality healthcare workforce, health information system, adequate finances, and accessibility to medicine. All these, if properly put in place, will ensure that challenges associated with community health system is mitigated. And when this is mitigated, it has a lot of benefits. As I've said earlier, still reiterating that when we put this in place, it will enable us to have a focus. It will enable us to prevent future pandemics. It will enable us to properly curtail infectious diseases and identify disease hotspot zone. Therefore, I would still like to reiterate again that the concerned parties need to work hands in hands together to ensure that we invest hugely in community-based research, we strengthen our community healthcare system, and as such, we'll be able to mitigate the effect of risk of emergence of infectious diseases. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Abibulai, for that beautiful presentation. So I'll just call on Mr. Yola Oladunjoye to come and guide us through the need for the inclusion of indigenous people in research related to traditional medicine. So can you please come on board?
Yes, thank you, Yusuf. So I am Iyola Oladunjoye, and I'm a microbiologist from Nigeria. It has really been great listening to the speakers talking about indigenous perspectives and the inclusion of indigenous people in research. So one of my interests is antimicrobial resistance, and I'm passionate about finding sustainable solutions to this global challenge. So basically, antimicrobial resistance is a phenomenon that occurs when the antimicrobials we have that are designed to kill pathogens, which can either be bacteria, virus, or fungi that cause disease, are no longer working. And as a result of this, scientists have been looking for various means to find new antimicrobials, which unfortunately is very difficult and hard to find. But we've seen that one of the prospects of finding new therapeutics to tackle the problem of antimicrobial resistance is through traditional medicine. However, there have been challenges with biopiracy, and this basically involves the process where traditional knowledge are illegally patented. So traditional knowledge from other countries are illegally patented, and is a practice of commercial exploitation of chemicals or genetic materials which occur naturally. And this is one of the impediments that is affecting the advancement of traditional medicine, which, as just like the former speaker said, the lack of incorporating indigenous community in research is really affecting advancement, and helicopter research has serious implications in advancing global public health issues. So I'll just mention some examples where biopiracy has occurred in the past. One of these examples is the patenting of neem plant, which goes by the botanical name Azadirachta indica. Since ancient times, neem has always been, has always proved useful in several ways, and the Indians have shared their knowledge across the globe. But in the year 1994, the U.S. Department of Agriculture and an American company, WR received an European patent that includes various methods that are used for controlling fungal infection in plants by using a composite extracted from leaves. And biopiracy does not just occur in the field of traditional medicine, but it also occurs in agriculture or farming, and also with varieties of food crops. And that can be seen with the biopiracy of an Enola bean. And this bean was named after the wife of Larry Proctor, and who patented it in 1999. And Enola bean is a variation of Mexican yellow bean. And the sales of this bean were commercialized in North Mexico. And subsequently, the patent holder sued many importers of the Mexican yellow bean, and the farmers were faced with economic crisis. However, a lawsuit was filed by the farmers, and the result was in favor of the farmers, as ruled by the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. It is actually very much essential that at this time, in order to advance the prospect of traditional medicine in tackling antimicrobial resistance, that we protect intellectual property to preserve traditional medicine. And this can be achieved by effective collaboration with indigenous people. And this would even enable them to share this knowledge. So far, they are credited and are also rewarded for their discovery. Because most of these traditional plants, there has been traditional cognition, by the indigenous people, primarily consisting of biological features and genetic diversity of the natural environment from one generation to another. And it's actually essential at this time for researchers to work closely with indigenous people, yeah, and also avoid biopiracy. Very much essential that this is taken seriously, and measures are taken in place, most especially regulatory framework are put in place to ensure that it doesn't continue this way. Um, and that would end my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Yola Oladujoy, for that great presentation. So I don't think I remember Mr. Abibulai emphasizing the meaning of helicopter research. So I would like to emphasize more on that. I hope you are hearing me, please. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much. So what we mean by helicopter research is, okay, yes, I think he explained that, but let me just buttress this point. So helicopter research is a phenomenon whereby researchers from with more financial power, usually from the global north. We all know that global north researchers usually have an easy access to fundings compared to researchers from the global south. So this enabled them to have more financial power as well as research potential compared to the global south researchers. So they tend to come to the global south, they tend to come to the local communities, obtain their data, possibly even genomic data, and then they take it to their country and go and analyze this and then publish these findings, even without including without recognizing the participation of the local communities. So this is unethical risk, is an unethical act regarding scientific research. So and so these have been going on for a while. Even the almighty Charles Darwin actually get involved in this act. So the best way to tackle this and the issue of growing helicopter research is through collaborations among the global south researchers with the government input, I mean government support, as well as other private organizations, possibly through fundings. When we have the funding, when we have enough funding, we'll be able to conduct our research in the nick of time, without even before the arrival of the helicopter researchers. So let's take, for instance, the issue of zoonosis. Most some of the zoonotic diseases usually start from the global. Yes, we have diseases that start from the global south, but we don't usually get to respond to these diseases at the appropriate time. So before we report most of these diseases, they would have crossed the international borders. So if at all we have enough financial resources and enough support from our government, then we'll be able to conduct our research on time, and then we'll be able to report this. Let us tell our story. So they don't need to be telling us our story. So like I said the other time, who is sick and who is telling the story? So we are the one that is suffering from this issue, but another people is telling us our story even more better than we can. So we just call we call onto the government, we call the private sectors, organizations, and then international funders to continue to support the researchers from the global south, so that they can be doing the needful at the right time. So thank you so much. And I think Dr. Mona, I would like to know if you have anything to say regarding this. So thank you.
Thank you very much for this dialogue, Yusuf, Habiballah, and Yola. You did great explaining all about research, helicopter researchers and community-based research, because it's very important when we are trying to integrate between different disciplines and also to make that rooted in community-based knowledge systems and values. It's very important to make this link and make the knowledge translated on practical basis. So I think we have a few minutes to end this meeting. So we shared the publications on the chat, but due to the time limit, we will jump to our photo that we mentioned that we need to take a group photo for this wonderful ceremony. So maybe I would ask you to open your cameras if you feel free to do that, so that we can take a screenshot of our beautiful gathering today. So maybe Nathan, if you have the screen with all the attendees, maybe you can take the screenshot for us. Thank you.
Nathan's working on it.
Is it done? I took a few shots here.
Vanessa, there's a request to say, to alert the people as you take the photos. I think you just go ahead and take it because Nathan doesn't have it figured out yet.
So what should I say? Just 1, 2, 3, and ready, done. Oh yes, I think it's everybody here. Don't have another pace. Yeah, I think it's done. Thank you very much. Sure. Okay. So Nathan just shared the next steps in the chat. It was lovely meeting. Thank you all. So yeah, you have a few things. Maybe we should share this in the email too. So yeah.
And maybe I can summarize just quickly, Vanessa. It'll take 2 minutes.
Okay.
So can start with thanking everyone for such a beautiful gathering today. And as we said in the beginning, this needs to be a beginning where we see ourselves as the seeds, the roots, the trunk, the leaves, the branches of the trees and the plants of our ancestors and our children. So the first thing that's coming up as the next meeting will be on August 26th, and that's the next MRN meeting. Then 3 days later is a Clinicians for Planetary Health gathering that will focus on traditional and indigenous healers from Brazil, and Vanessa will be part of the facilitation team there. Then 2 days later, on August 31st, we're planning our ACOPPHE general meeting, which will be on the International Day for People of African Descent. So please look out for more details about that. We are wanting to try and mobilize widely to connect with the ACOPPHE community members, and also welcome all of the new members and presenters from today, and for sure the MRN team. Then the next 2 events are big events later on, a couple months down the line. Late October and early November will be the Planetary Health Annual Meeting. And this will be a hybrid events where you can participate, if possible, in person at Harvard University in Massachusetts. Several of us are planning to be there. And if it's not possible for you to be in person, it will be free to participate virtually. And we're really hoping, because this annual meeting was where the ACOPPHE team was born a little over a year ago, that we will be able to have as many people from the Global South, from Africa, participate as much as possible, so that our voices and perspective, our values and our relationships are represented in the planetary health space as we continue spreading these messages of hope and healing. Then the last one is about a month later, early December, the In Vivo Planetary Health Meeting, all of these, look for more details. And again, we promise that as we talked about today, how we are all one, that is what we commit to in our ACOPPHE community, to embodying that truth. And so deep gratitude to all of you, and look forward to connecting again in the near future.
Thank you, Nathan. Thank you all. If anybody wants to say anything, just feel free. It was an amazing meeting.
I just want to say, Vanessa, this beautiful colored flag, it's our Wipala, and it's different colors. All of them are different, but they all together make the rainbow. So we are like that. Thank you so much.
Hi, thank you, Vivian.
And I see Johannes has a hand raised, so maybe we can jump to Johannes.
Yeah, thank you very much. Really, I want to thank all of you for organizing this very interesting event. I switched my camera because the light in here is not good, because this is around 8 or 9 p.m. In our country, so the light is not good. That's why I switched my camera, and just to next event. Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you very much, you, Haynes. And if somebody have questions, because we didn't have time for the questions, please send an email, and then we'll try to make a maybe another meeting even, or I don't know, we'll try to cover that. If you have anything that you would like to discuss and talk about further, if this works. Thank you.
So maybe I can invite in our co-director, Mr. Samuel. Please feel free if you'd like to give your feedback and any thoughts about this meeting. Okay, so I think that we have reached our closure of this meeting. Until we reconnect again, please take great care of you, and thank you very much for bearing with us till this moment. It was a lovely gathering, a memorable one, and it's really appreciated your time and your interaction in this meeting. So thank you very much, and take great care, and bye-bye.
Kajelcha, would you like to say something?
Yes, Vanessa, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. I want to extend my emails.
Actually, Kajel, we can't, I mean, the connection is not very good. So do you think we cannot understand what you're saying because of the connection? Do you want to write in the chat, maybe?
Okay, let's try. Let's write.
Well, Yes, so maybe that's the way. If you have anything to say or any questions, we could, oh yes, please. We could share in email, by email, and then we try to gather everything, maybe even to arrange another small meeting just for these discussions and things. And yes, it will be shared, the recording. So thank you very much. Oh, the link is already in the chat, actually. Thank you, Nathan. So yes, let's do like that. Just write it by email, whatever you want to say or share or discuss further, and then we see what we can do to connect again. Thank you very much for your presence. Thank you very much for your words and for your sharing time and hearts. See you soon. And we are together. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Have a nice weekend.
Bye.
Bye bye.